everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Softengine webinar. Today we are going to be demonstrating Softengine products, the resource schedule and the production terminal. Our host for today is Mike Bievich. He will be doing a brief overview of what exactly these two tools do, how they empower our customers, as well as a demonstration of each product followed with a live Q&A. I could say more, but I think I can leave it to Mike. Take it away.
Hello and good morning. My name is Mike Bievich. I'm the product manager here at Softengine. I'm going to go ahead and get this started. So I'll go ahead and just click on over here and we'll discuss the Softengine Production Terminal and Resource Scheduler. So about this product, it was built on SAP and OpenUI 5 technologies, and the user experience is based on the Fiori design guidelines. And what that basically means to you is if you've attended any of our previous webinars or seen some of the communication that's coming out, this is going to look and act a lot like SAP's version 10 of the software, which moves a couple of the personas to a web client, enabling things like Launchpad-based navigation, tiles, widgets, and so on. Also, with it being HANA and its SAP integrations, there's more than just transactions. So when we look at things like dashboard widgets, reporting components, item catalog files, all of this information is transmitting back and forth from HANA to this portal in real time. Also being built on the SAP foundation, as they look to grow and expand their catalog, we'll be able to dynamically offer and pass through a lot of these options to you, essentially putting you right at the cutting edge of one of the world's largest software publishers, intellectual property. And then, of course, crystal report layouts for custom documents and printout labeling. So if you want to print production forms, your barcode labels for your GS1 compliance, all of that information translates right here through the application for your printing needs. So what we're going to see today is we're going to look at the employee portal, both production scheduling and the terminal itself. We're also going to flip over and take a look at the administration console. So if you had attended the B2B webinar a couple of months ago, you would have seen us cover the admin console, and that's where you're going to manage things like your users and security. We'll talk about things like being able to address language packs and renaming of the fields. And then I'll touch a little bit on things like the integration with Query Manager for KPI widgets and analytics, and then some of the planning settings. You will also see the portal. Of course, we'll discuss again those widgets and dashboards. And a couple of things of note before we get into here. There's going to be two terms that you will hear as part of this process. There will be a planning, and then there will be a routing. And the way that this system ultimately delineates between the two is whenever you hear the term planning, you're going to ultimately think calendar-based navigation. So we've really tried to model this to make a simple user look and feel for what we have going on. So we took some pages right out of the world's most largely used efficiency applications like Outlook. And then, of course, the Kanban board will be your drag and drop routing stage, and I will show you both of those. All right, without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and flip over to my production terminal, and we'll get this show on the road. So what we're looking at here is the Softengine web application. Comes complete with dashboard, which can be customized. Now, our dashboards are basic UI5 analytics and KPI widgets. They can be grouped together, whether it's general production sales. They can become tabulated, which I could show you up here, or just all heaped. As you can see, we also have multiple widget types that are available. So text cards for generic information, where you can apply icons. We also have things like message strips, where colors and icons can also be customized. Other tiles like product sliders, of course, your traditional KPI tiles, charting and graphs. And of course, you'll see that, obviously we want to make sure that we can get some additional information so you can drill into a lot of these targets. And then, of course, our most recent addition is integration into the social media and streaming platforms. So adding things like your tweet stream to keep people up to date in what you're doing in your organization. Or in some cases, maybe you want to know what your customers or suppliers are doing. So you can also add additional analytics here within the software itself. Now, when we talk about the dashboard and the reports, this is where I want to touch a little bit on the integration components between this application and SAP. So everything that you are seeing here, with the exception of static text, is actually pulling straight from SAP's Query Manager. And the idea is we didn't want our customers to have to come in here and become developers, write specific code in order to determine what charts and graphs and data that they want. All the information that you are seeing here is pulling direct from SAP. And then with this tool, you just identify how you want to have it visualized. On top of that, we also have additional reports. Think of these as grid-based reports. So if I wanted to create a daily run pull list for the guys in the field, maybe we're not using the WMS application, I can go ahead and pull that and utilize SAP's query to provide us any additional information that we want. Item lists, quality tests, and so on, all available here. And again, all come from SAP. But I don't want you to have to take my word for it. What I've done is I'm going to go ahead and flip over here to SAP. And you'll see here within my query manager, I have my series of dashboard widgets, my custom reports, and so on. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is I just wrote a nice little quick query to give me a list of employees. And I'm going to go ahead and just throw this here into my custom reports and call this team listing. And that's going to go ahead and be done. I'll just come back here to my portal and refresh. And what we should see is a brand new report here in this system. So again, the integration framework between the two is that simple. The idea is we want you to be able to deliver any information that you need or would like to your users. And in turn, it will become immediately available here from the list. In regards to things like our scheduling, as I told you earlier, we do have multiple different scheduling outputs. So we have what we call logistics planning. And again, with our planning, it ultimately comes down to calendar-based navigation. So with this application, we know a lot of our customers have multiple facilities, multiple site warehouses. So in order to streamline workflow process, we've gone ahead and added an area called perspectives. So the idea is for your warehouse, you can go ahead and choose different personas or ideas of which documents you would like to see, which shipping lanes or doors that we extend on your normal warehouse. And then, of course, you can give it a name. That way, every time your user logs in, it just goes ahead and launches to your requested visibility. You can have multiple personas. So I have one here called General Warehouse. If I wanted to go ahead and flip, I could have my own counter list. And then, of course, I could have something like a consolidated or combined. The system itself is a drag and drop based system. So I can, of course, click here and extend the timeline as I see fit. I can drag it back. And I can, of course, add any additional orders that I would like. So by clicking here in my unassigned, you will see I get a list of my logistics documents that I may want to schedule. This list that we're looking at here is just a simple level of information. This can also be modified by you. Out of the box, we simply offer the document number, your customer or business partner, and the transit method. But we have had customers that have, again, modified the query to include things like number of pieces or skids, total weight, any COA, logistics information, things like that that they may want. Adding and scheduling is as simple as dragging and dropping to any of that specific warehouse. And you'll see it'll go ahead and choose a specific date, calendar, however you would like to do it. Alternatively, we offer similar functionality here on the production side. So from production, again, we have our personas where I may only care about a specific warehouse. And again, I can also set these individual perspectives. So if I only want to look at the general warehouse floor versus the West Coast warehouse shop, I just realized we had a little typo in there. And then, of course, I can go shop ops and grab everybody as part of it. With the calendar-based operations, depending on how long your processing run is, you can run this as a hourly-based calendar window, a daily-based to stack it, of course, weeks, months, and so on. So again, a lot of these perspectives are up to you in regards to how you will ultimately operate. In addition to the perspectives for production, we also have the ability to break it down by warehouse. If you are using route stage, you can go ahead and, instead of using warehouses, identify your specific route stages in a similar environment, grab your production orders from, say, pack and seal, and bring all those over as intended. And then, of course, equipment resources. So if you are running pack lines, mixing vessels, or if you just want to assign a crew, if you have a build or box building crew, you can, of course, assign specific production orders to those individual resources from a timeline perspective. So again, the depth of the scheduling is ultimately up to you in regards to how you would like to operate this system. The second piece of the scheduling that we have is called routing. Now, in the SAP world, we use 3 statuses: planned, released, and then, of course, closed. In the real world of what occurs in business, could be miles of things that occur between when we release a production order and when it is ultimately closed. So this is where our routing comes in. You can create your own custom-defined columns, complete with color coding, and then move these processes from step to step in order to move throughout this process. Each step or move that you make is recorded within the system, so you can get a true tracking of what is ultimately occurring. What we've also seen a lot of clients do, say in a scenario like this, where they will move something to hold for QC, you can use SAP's alert system to alert your QC department or anyone of that nature that, hey, this is now in place and ready for you to run for your quality. Identical to the production planning, you can also have this by route stage and equipment resource as well. So again, more dynamic scheduling related to how you would like to track the process of these orders through our software. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take a quick pause here, and I'm going to jump over to the administration console. And what I'd like to show you here in our administration console is some of the setup that goes into this. So when we looked at things like logistics scheduling, you'll see that we give you additional options for things like time overlap. Right? If you are planning on walk-ins or drop-offs, obviously you don't necessarily know if people are going to be in at 9:05, 9:15. So you may want to allow time overlap. But in things like standard processing, where if the vessel's not empty, it's not empty, we can't go ahead and overlap, you have the ability to go ahead and turn things like that off. Loading durations, how long do you want to automatically block? We have also had people use things like Boyum to factor pieces and weight in order to schedule this on a per document basis rather than a generic option. And then, of course, you can set your default perspectives and timelines. So when I open up the schedule, do I operate in an hours, days, or weeks type fashion? In some cases, we also extend existing SAP functionality. So for our logistics scheduling, as an example, we also have the ability to add doors or lanes, and this will allow you to effectively schedule any common carriers, trucks, trailers, or bladders that do show up and get dropped off at your doors. These are, of course, customizable. You can change the order by moving them up and down and so on. On the other side of that equation is the routing. So again, with routing, you can choose your closed document visibility. So you may have noticed that over here in this example, I have a completed and I have a closed. As an SAP user, you undoubtedly know that when you close a production order, that's when all the magic happens. With costs, variances, everything gets booked. And most accountants tend to panic when they think about somebody on the shop floor closing the production order and booking that process. So in this example, I actually set up a completed column that will allow the production shop floor staff to go ahead and mark this as completed. and then moving it over to close becomes a byproduct of accounting. It also allows us to trigger that alert system to let the accounting group know that this run has been completed. Again, adding statuses or colors, you can pick from our own palette. You can change the column order, so top to bottom becomes left to right. The final piece I want to discuss with you here related to this is our production terminal. So in our production terminal, you're going to see a list of your available production orders. You can go ahead and sort the orders. You can filter it by status, by warehouse, by item, and so on. You'll see here, once I move into the production order itself, I can go ahead and again change the status here to anything that I want to have occurred. I will get a summary of what's going to be issued to production and what's going to be backflushed upon receipt. We'll tell you if there's any equipments or resource items that will be backflushed from a costing perspective, and then give you a transactional history list of what's ultimately occurred. You'll see up here at the top, we have some nice general aesthetics. This, of course, comes from our B2B side. If you're not a user of that, not a problem. You can still upload any images that you would like here to this platform in order to go ahead and just add some visual acuity. Everything that you saw me do here through planning can effectively be done here through the terminal as well. So again, things like our status or scheduling can ultimately occur. In addition, we can report completion and issue our components. So when I choose to issue a component, I can choose to filter my list if I only care about a specific route stage. Or if I care about it all, I can go ahead and clear these tags. If you're looking for a specific part, say you do some sort of electronic assembly, or you have a lot of small or high volume, small quantity type mixtures, you can go ahead and filter for this list, looking for things like date paste and so on. To issue your components, you can of course just sit here and click on the individual items. It will give you a list of your batch numbers to pick from. If there are multiple batches, you can of course pick from those multiple batches here. I'm going to go ahead and just pick a batch that I have. It's currently looking for about 50, so I'm going to go ahead and say I'm using 30 of this one, and I'm going to go ahead and add another one from this other batch to go ahead and say I'm going to use 10 here. Oops. Go ahead and close that. Reporting completion is similar as well. When I come here, I can simply click the report completion button, and you'll see now I get my allocations. It is here I can add multiple receipts, whether you are serializing or batch managing your inventory. You'll see here you'll add just your simple generic batch information and or quantities. We also have a function here within the portal to auto-sequence, auto-generate, or manage what these batch numbers ultimately come down to. So you can use, again, the query manager component, similar to what we looked at over here. You can go ahead and say, I would like my batch to come from one of my existing queries. Over here in SAP, you can allow them to manually overwrite or just create their own. Or if you have some level of development staff on hand, you can go ahead and have them adjust, create JSON files or any type of additional components for that generation. Beyond that, this is our Softengine web portal and production terminal. This will handle all of your production processing needs, production issue, production receipt recording, your routing for efficiency, planning for calendar-based controls, and a nice dashboard here to send the information that you have set forth for your employees back downstream. And that is it for my portion of the presentation. Miss Ashley, back to you.
Yes, thanks so much, Mike. Let's go ahead and stop the sharing. So we have a few questions here, and I wanted to figure out, first off, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. All right. So we have some Q&A questions here. One of the questions that have been asked is, can this be on a tablet or can this be on a phone?
So the short answer is yes. We don't recommend going any smaller than, say, an 8-inch tablet. And the reason, of course, being when you're looking at the routing component, those are a lot of little blocks in there, and it could be maddening on a 3-inch telephone. So we don't recommend necessarily using a phone for it, but an 8-inch tablet or higher, absolutely. There's more than enough finger space to drag and drop all of those components. But I would normally recommend against telephone level usage for it.
Okay. Before we end this demonstration, is there any other quick questions or things that you may recommend for our clients as far as how to get in touch with our sales managers to implement this program?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that you saw me kind of emphasizing is the feed from SAP. And the idea is this application is not your traditional implementation launch. A lot of our existing clients already have been using a good amount of the alert system, the KPI widgets on the dashboard, which makes listing this application that much easier. One of the things that I didn't show you, or I may have shown you briefly, is if you already have existing queries in the system, all you have to do is assign how you want that displayed here in this portal. There is no full implementation of workflow process because this application rides on top of SAP's existing workflow processes, which means if you run MRP to generate your orders and they all sit there in a planned status, all you do is open this terminal and then you can schedule, facilitate, and actually move it from plan to release and so on. There is no stop, let's rethink about this process. When it comes to building things like dashboards, a lot of us have had traditional users that are getting emailed dashboard analytics and reports from the system because the shop floor isn't traditionally a full SAP user. So this allows you to take all of that pre-built stuff and lift it in here. And we find that people are able to start using this and testing and working through it within a matter of hours to days. So it is a really quick flip and turn on to get off and going with pretty much no risk related to what you guys have going because your SAP process is already in there. So if you do have a question, if you would like an in-depth demo, if you would like to join us with a one-on-one where you can click around, please reach out to Miley, Danielle through support, whoever your account manager is, and we'll be happy to get that set up and let you kick the tires and click around.
And it seems pretty obvious that this is really situated for a warehouse, but is there anywhere else where you could see that something like these two solutions would be beneficial to another industry or area?
Well, sure. I mean, the idea with logistics planning, as well as the production planning, whether you're using one long extended route stage bomb or you have your multiple phase production, or maybe it's even just kit building. The idea is, depending on what your business makeup is, a lot of people on the shop floor are used to using handheld devices for things like WMS scanning and barcoding. But what we found with a lot of customers who are using, say, in coffee, there's a roasting process where there's just a guy sitting there at a terminal with 3 or 4 roasting machines around him. It doesn't necessarily make sense to have them have that handheld device. And this is where this piece really kind of shines and currently enables them. Now, because we were partnered with SAP, and you heard me mention version 10 earlier, the web client for SAP is initially in this release focused on the sales persona, which means SAP is committed to moving and enabling the sales individuals to start using their web component rather than work through the traditional SAP actual client. And in doing that, we in turn stopped our own sales development. If you took our previous webinar on the B2B portal, you probably saw what we were referring to. And we instead went through production. And we are going to continue to add additional modules to this. things like the logistics tracking, inventory status management, and catalog. And that's one of the things that we ultimately did not show you, but we can absolutely do such. So things like catalog management, instruction, and a lot of these components are kind of resting behind the scenes that you may find value in other pieces of the organization, not just the shop floor. So again, if you want to see more related to the catalog and the sales process, just reach out to us and we'd be happy to take you through it.
Mike, so great. One more question. Do you see any new or latest and greatest? Can we give anybody something exciting to look forward to with these solutions?
Yeah, so ultimately the next pieces are going to be taking you through demand processing and logistics. So we are bridging the gap between catalog management. Unfortunately, I don't have much to show as it sits right now, but I will tell you that beyond the release that you are seeing today, you're going to see some pretty rapid fire subsequent release information. The next thing that we will be building for us here at Softengine is we're going to be moving quality control from our normal traditional client here to the web. As you can see with the graphical interface, the on-demand analytics related to testing criteria and results obviously is much better in a graphical standpoint, and we are going to continue to follow this persona of planning to processing to quality. So for us here, as we run through and we do our issues and receipts, running and recording your quality results from that same process or continuation will be the next step that you see us we bring on here as part of it.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for giving us that very thorough walkthrough and demonstration of the production terminal and resource scheduler. And everyone, thank you so much for attending this webinar. It will be available on YouTube momentarily, as well as I will send everyone an email with the information. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining, and everyone else, have a wonderful day.
So, thank you, Ashley.
Softengine, solutions that impact the bottom line.